So on these old bikes, you have an engine oil indicator and it'll turn from green to red. Well, how does it know your oil's bad? It's actually odometer driven. So after a few thousand miles, it'll turn red. You take your key, it's made for your key, and push it in the hole next to where it says oil and it'll turn green for you. Very simple way to keep track of how long you've been between oil changes. Pretty cool. Well, hello again and welcome back to Ruby the Elite. So we're going to do a quick video. I'm just going to tell you what I've been doing and what I haven't been doing. It's been pretty awful weather-wise here in Texas. Up until recently, we had 100-degree heat every day for a month, more than a month. And it's like you can't really get anything done in your garage when it's 105 in here. You know, there's no way to cool down. You can't ride. It's too hot to ride. I mean, you just go around the block and you're sweating profusely. So you have to, you got to really just stand back and say, okay, we'll wait until it cools down a little bit and go from there. But what have I been doing? Well, as you can see on the stage, this is what I call my stage. You can see I still have the Elite 250. And why is that? Well, the performance of the Elite 250 has not been what I expect it to be, and that's why it is back on the stage. I really want to get this Helix, which I rode yesterday for the first time in quite a while. Boy, is the backfiring bad on this. And the backfiring I'm talking about, the deceleration backfire, is very common on the Helix. It's very common on the Elite 250. And it's almost always due to an air leak. And when I bought the bike, I did buy a exhaust gasket. I put that into this bike because it was really bad on this bike. And after that, I also put a new vacuum line on it and a new fuel line. The fuel line not as much causes the problem. It's the vacuum line. It's a vacuum leak that's the problem. Now, after I replaced, because that was what everyone was saying, go ahead and replace the exhaust gasket and that'll fix it. Well, it didn't fix it on that bike. I went ahead and moved on and bought another carburetor. And keep in mind, that bike did not have the original carb on it. When I bought it, it had, an aftermarket Chinese one on it. And he handed me the original carb and said, I couldn't get it to run real good with this. Actually, he didn't, but he gave it to the guy that dropped the bike off, because remember, I bought that bike out of state. But he told me, he said, I tried using that original carb, and it just wasn't running real well. The bike's got 11,000 miles on it, so that's a good bit of miles. So if the carburetor isn't working after 11,000 miles, then, I can see, unlike this bike here, which it only has 400 miles on it, and the guy replaced the carb in this. I can't wait to find out. I've got the carb actually to the left of me over here, and I can't wait to find out what was so wrong with it after 500 miles. But that's another video for another time. But this Elite 250, it had a different carb, it had the original manifold on it, and it still had the vacuum leak. And it only ran 58 miles an hour with the carb that was in it. It ran extremely well off the line. Now, keep in mind, on past videos, I did put some Dr. Pulley sliders in the bike, 22 gram. Those are slightly lighter than what was originally in it. From what I've read, some sources say 22.6, some say 24 grams were the rollers that were originally in that bike. I figured, if they were 24 grams, then I was quite a bit lighter. You're talking 2 grams per roller, and multiply that by the multiple rollers, and you're going to have a bike that's going to be better off the line, but then lose a few miles an hour on the top end. And I think that's what happened when I put those sliders in. So I have some rollers that I purchased. These are actually the rollers that go into the Helix. I bought them to throw into this bike, and we'll see what happens. They both use the exact same size, the 24x18, and I ended up buying a set of these. I also have an exhaust gasket for the Helix. That'll be the first thing that I replace. But let's talk about the manifold. So this is the manifold that was in the bike, right? So you can see the inlet here. Now I have gone ahead and put a new manifold in the Elite 250. I bought two of them. I bought two of these. One of them is in the Elite 250, and then I had this one, which I was going to put in the Helix. When I installed this in the Elite 250, right away I noticed not only was this inlet going the wrong direction, but it was a lot longer than what was originally in the bike. Now, the reason why that mattered was it goes right into the air box. And then it kind of constricts this because the actual hose that comes off of this, it bends it up right away, and it just makes you wonder if it's getting the whole use of the inlet or not. It's not supposed to be this long. I wonder if this was made for a different bike. And I thought, okay, well, it was made for the Helix. That's why it's different than the Elite 250. But I just opened up right here the Honda part, as you can see. Just opened up the brand new manifold for the Helix. And unless they made a different manifold for different years of the Helix, it's the same as the Elite 250. It might be slightly longer, but if you look at the whole lineup, it's not even pointing in the same direction. This is the Chinese $10 one. This is the Honda $30 one. I didn't realize I could get this for only $30, so I was going to put this in the Helix. No way. It's not going in my Helix. So we're going to put all the Honda parts into the Helix. Now, why did I buy the cheap one for the Elite 250? You got to stop somewhere. You know, I've got a lot of money invested in that bike, and I don't want to keep throwing more and more money at it. It's just, you want to, once I fix it up, if I sell it, I don't want to be too far underwater. I want it to run well. And if it means I got to put some parts in it that I don't want to use, then I figured this would be better than a leaky one here. So, but the Helix is getting only the best. So that's going back in to the Helix. This is the Helix carb. I have no idea what's wrong with it. And you can see on the Helix carb how it's got that red plug. That's the real difference. That, and right here for your throttle cable, it has this on it, where the one that is in the Elite 250, at least so far from what I can tell, it doesn't have this same thing coming out. It is, this is the carb that was originally in the bike, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm just showing you the difference. You can see here that that's not there. And you can also see that there is the difference when it comes to the plugs. So these are the plugs for the Elite 250. So if you want to buy an Elite 250 aftermarket carb, make sure you're buying it with these plugs and not this, because I see a lot of these aftermarket ones being sold on eBay with this plug, and it's not even the right, it's not even the right plug when this is what you want. So make sure if you buy an Elite 250 carb, a new aftermarket Chinese carb, unfortunately, that you buy one that has leads like this. That is what I put on the bike now. So I did try this carb in my bike. This is the one, the Elite 250, the one that the guy said, he couldn't get it to run right. Well, I gave it a try as well. I ended up taking it apart, putting it in my ultrasonic cleaner, cleaned everything out of it, put it in the bike, and it just didn't run well. And it's a shame. I'm not sure why it didn't run well, but it just didn't run well. I took it apart multiple times, put it back in the bike multiple times, and finally said, the heck with it, I ended up buying another new carb. Now, this carb here, which the rest of it is in here, it would only go 58 miles an hour with that carb in the bike. As soon as I put another brand new carb in it, shoved it in the bike, right away the bike got up to 64. Big difference, 64 to 58. Now I think I'll gain back a few more miles per hour once I put in the heavier rollers, because I don't need all the off the line. You know, I'd rather have a few more extra miles per hour at the end. So once we try that, I think we're going to get it back. But I'm not sure that that bike does much more than that. At least that's what I originally thought till I rode this one yesterday. This one I got up to 68, and it still had a little bit more left in it. But what a difference in the ride quality between this and this. I mean, it's like night and day. Any of you Elite 250 guys out there, I'm telling you, when you're on that bike at 63, 64, whatever I got up to, I think it was 63, it is nowhere near as comfortable because of the short wheelbase and the smaller tire. It is nowhere near as comfortable as this. It's incredibly so far beyond comfortable on this or the Morphus, either one of these bikes, than the Elite 250. You know, I got it, like I said, up to 63 with the new windshield on it, and it didn't feel stable. I mean, when you hit the wind, you're always going to have that little bit of shudder. I understand that. But it was a lot more uncomfortable on that than it was on this. This I was just zipping through. No worries. But I had that terrible deceleration where it would just backfire, boom, boom, boom. So I have the parts to fix that. I've got new tires for this, brand new tires. Plus I'm going to try this Helix car back into the Helix and see what was wrong with this. I'll clean everything up again in the ultrasonic cleaner and put it in, and we'll see what happens. I'd hate to not use the actual part that's got 450 miles on it. I mean, what could be wrong with this? I guess we're going to find out. But the new carb that I put in the Elite 250, I couldn't believe it happened. So I took it for its first ride. New carb, new manifold, and deceleration, backfire gone. I didn't even get maybe 2 or 3 miles around on that bike. And I noticed my son was actually riding it, and he pulled it up, and right below him, there's a puddle. I'm like, oh man, come on. I couldn't believe it. There was a puddle. Put it up on the stand, and I'm like, man, if this has got an oil leak in it, it's just, now I got to tear the whole engine apart. I really didn't want to do that. I can do it. I just didn't want to do it. And it wasn't oil. It was coolant. I'm like, okay. Right away, I thought to myself, you know, it's one of those lines that went into the carb. Maybe it got loose. And after it got loose, it just is leaking everywhere it came out. It wasn't loose. The brand new carb, this is the inlet for the coolant. Look at it, came right out. These are pressure fitted in, and what you're looking at there is like this. So you see the coolant coming in here, and this particular piece right here came right off. It was just dangling. So there you go. I mean, that's the quality difference between having the original carb and having one of these aftermarket carbs. You can see how it was hardly even pressure fitted in there. And what I ended up doing was, this is the carb that was actually this one. Was it this one? No. This one here. I just took it off this one and put it into that bike, and now we're all set. So it's running, it's not leaking anymore. But I just couldn't believe it. Brand spanking new. I wanted to send it back, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to take the part off. Thank God it was something that you could just remove from another carb and put that on that bike. But after I have the new carburetor in it that I bought, and the only thing, like I said, I'm going to do is I'm going to put these rollers on. See how the bike runs? And that's it. It runs great in every other regard. it's just, I don't think it is, at the end of the day, my cup of tea. I think if you want to average around 55 miles an hour on it, it was fine. It's when you start getting into the 60s, which I'll push it. I'll see what I can get it to go up to. Right now, again, for the third time, telling you 63 is all I could. But as soon as I put the heavier rollers in, plus I'm a heavier guy, I think that will probably be at 65 to 68 or something like that. I don't know if it'll hit 70, but we're going to find out. And it's just not comfortable at those speeds. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it because I want to be able to maintain, you know, easy 65 to 75 miles an hour. And you have no problem doing it on this. And even with a nice wind yesterday, the Helix, no problem there either. So it's going to come down to keeping Ruby the Elite and then probably these two bikes, because I think I'm selling those. I had started messing around with that one. It wouldn't start. I had it sitting so long. So I'll get that fixed up. I don't know. I may sell that Elite 50S. I keep on debating. As much as I like the eye candy, you know, I'm not going to ride that. You know, big guy. But I don't want to let it go either. But I wanted to let you know, I keep on pivoting here. And I wanted to tell you, though, about the Elite 250. It's done. And actually, before the weekend is out, I will have this bike. The video started for this. So I've got oil, I've got coolant, I've got that new exhaust gasket, I got the new manifold. We're going to throw that carburetor back into the Helix. But first I got to clean it all up. And after that, we'll see what happens with her. You know, it was just so much fun getting on the bike and riding it around yesterday. It just, you know, it's not something that I'm used to, but it feels a lot like the Morphus. And it's comfortable like the Morphus, and I'm tired of waiting, and I'm tired of putting any time in this. I should have been long done, though, with this. If we would have had some nicer days, it would have been long over, but like I said, when you got 105 degrees every day, you don't want to work in it. And, you know, if you're like, where is he? Why is he not putting out videos? Think about it. Come live in Texas for a while, and you'll see why I'm not putting out videos. When it's 105, August is just terrible. Now we're into our summer here. You know, September, October, November, beautiful months to ride, and more videos coming soon. And I have over here, just so you know, I bought it for my helmet. I got my camera, so you're going to have the ride-alongs. I have that ready to go, all set up. The camera's in the house charging, so you're going to see. The next video will be a ride-along, and you'll see what it looks like to be on the Morphus. That'll be fun to do. But I wanted to at least tell you what was going on and get you up to date and talk about this manifold. And you know what? Pay the extra $20 and get the real thing. And at least makes me wonder, though, on this. You know, what bike is this made for? Because it's obviously not made for the Helix or the Elite 250, because the inlet's not even going in the same direction. So I'm assuming, you know, they say you can use it for that because this is the same. But, you know, it's the same, but it's different. Just the directions. Like, they couldn't put it in the same direction? I don't know. It doesn't matter. This is going in the bike, not this. All right, folks. That's all I had for you today. I wanted to give you the update and let you know what's happening. Thank goodness again, September is here. That's all. I'll see you soon with some Helix videos.